To UWS Weekly, a show that is dedicated to covering United Women's Soccer, a national pro-am league with your host, Jonathan Ward. Each and every week, we will highlight players, supporters, and staff of the clubs we all pride ourselves to support in North America. The UWS is a league that is committed to advancing women's soccer. What is going on, everybody? Good evening and welcome to UWS Weekly, a show dedicated to the best pro-am community in North America and powered by Reboot. Reboot is a nonprofit organization whose mission is to help more kids play soccer while creating opportunities to practice generosity, empathy, and leadership. Check them out today at reboot.soccer to find out more ways to help your community with perhaps a boot drive. This afternoon, I'm excited to have the opportunity to talk to two awesome representatives from the newest club of UWS, AC Syracuse Pulse. Joining me from the club this evening is head coach Brooke Barbuto and director of operations Penny Phillips-Powers. Penny, Brooke, thank you so much for taking the time to join me this evening. How are you guys doing?
Doing well. Thank you for having us.
Doing very well. Thank you.
Well, I'm excited to have you guys on, talk a little bit about AC Syracuse and what's going to happen for the 2022 season. But before we get started, tell us a little bit about how each of you got into the game that we all love.
Well, I'll start if you don't mind. I was actually born and raised in a soccer family. My father was an All-American back in the day. Played soccer through high school, played in college, and then got started coaching here locally, raising two kids in the soccer community. And now I've taken more of an office position to sort of booster young professionals within the soccer organizations.
Similar for me, I grew up in a soccer family. Both my parents played. They're both referees. I had an older brother who played, and I remember going to his first game and just crying my way onto the field. And then from then, they couldn't get me off. So grew up playing, played high school, played college, took a coaching job, and then just knew I wasn't ready to give up playing. So I then went overseas, played professional overseas for about 7 years, and then came back and got into coaching again and playing in the UWS. So it was an amazing experience and just can't get me off the field.
Well, Brooke, let's talk a little bit about that because you are from Syracuse. And why is it so important for you to come back to your hometown? You've played in the UWS previously, but now you're coming back home to coach. What does that mean and what's that going to involve for you?
I think it's so important for me to come back just because I had such an amazing experience growing up here and playing. And I'm excited to share that experience with players and create a similar culture that's fun and exciting and give players something to look forward to, whether it's players that are on the field, like currently playing, like members of the team, or younger players that are looking for someone to look up to and, looking for a role model and a leader and just creating a really fun, exciting environment.
Penny, in January of last year, you became the Academy Operations Manager for the club. Now you're the Director of Operations for the UWS side. What brought you to this position and how have you seen the club grow since you've come on?
Well, with AC Syracuse Pulse being so new, we announced just the beginning of this year with our pro team for the men. And when we started talking about a women's side, I wanted Brooke. So it just became after we were able to acquire her and bring her to the AC Syracuse Pulse family, it was a natural relationship, I think, for me to help her out, to be able to support her long term. And presently, I'm running the operations in multiple avenues, but we have hired some people to help out on the youth development side, which will give me more time to help out on the operations for Brooke and the pros.
Well, Brooke, I'm not saying this is a retirement gig because we know that you have that competitive side. Because last season you were playing, you scored 5 goals, you provided 6 assists while playing 778 minutes. Not to mention in 2018 you were the league MVP. So, what is this process? Why did you decide to step away while still at a high as a player?
Well, I know that I'll still have other avenues to play and, not to say that who knows, I might jump on the field during one of the games. But I think it's just the opportunity was presented to me and it was a really good opportunity to be a part of something great, to be a part of like a new amazing culture and bringing a professional level like team to the Syracuse area. And I know that growing up, I would have loved this opportunity and an opportunity to be a part of such an amazing club and culture. So I really wanted to like get on board and provide this opportunity to like college players and high school players and just give players another opportunity because there's so few opportunities for females. And like obviously now more doors are opening, but like when I was done playing, it was like go overseas if you wanted to keep playing or if you wanted to play professional, if you wanted to play at a high level. So I wanted to provide this opportunity to players like in the Syracuse area and, upstate New York area. And obviously if players from out of town are able to come. But I just really wanted to give them this opportunity. And I knew that I have such a good relationship with players in the area and professionals and everything like that. So I was really excited to, provide this opportunity to them.
Penny, you kind of brought up the idea of bringing her Brooke into the club immediately. I got to ask, was there a particular reason for that, or is it something from Brooke and past experiences that made her the best choice right away?
If you are looking for someone that is highly respected from from other coaches, from referees, from players, who is born and raised Syracuse, um, there is no one better than Brooke Barbuto to represent you as an organization. My kids have refed her games. They know how she is in relationships, how she coaches. I've been lucky to watch her for years and how she builds relationships with her players, the type of player she turns out onto the field. It was truly a level of respect and a position that I felt that warranted someone of her caliber to finally be able to step out of the shadows of playing and being able to really give her a platform to expand women's soccer here in Central New York.
Well, expanding women's soccer, what made you guys decide that UWS was the right fit for AC Syracuse Pulse in advancing the game for women in the area?
Well, just because personally I've played in it and I told Penny right away, I was like, the UWS is amazing. There's great like administration, there's great managers, the level is really good. And I just spoke very highly of you guys from Joe and Stephanie and you, just like how well you guys run the league and the competitiveness of the league. There's always going to be a new champion and there's top level teams and there's different teams making playoffs. And it was just my immediate thought went to the UWS and what a good environment it was and um, the competitiveness of the league and the professional environment that you guys provide.
So, Penny, the mission obviously for AC Syracuse Pulse, there's the club side, the lower I won't say lower, but the youth programs. How does it differ the mission statement or the mission of the club for UWS, or is it the same?
I think what we're looking to do is be able to layer. We would love long term for our youth players to then move to our semi pros, to then to our pros. We want to be able to give players the opportunities to build on everything they learn at a younger level and being able to play at a very high level. The difference, and right now we're independent, so it doesn't matter what club you play for or who you've played for in the past. This is a wide open independent avenue for players from all over, any school, any academy, any youth program, for them to jump on board and be able to be a part of something that accelerates their learning process and the soccer locally in general.
So thinking about this, joining the UWS, you guys picked probably one of the most competitive regions to be in the East Conference. How are you going to stand and make a name for yourselves? What is the inaugural campaign goal, and what is the expectation of the club starting day one with tryouts?
So I think the for the team aspect is just being successful. I'm probably one of the most competitive people that anyone will ever meet. So I don't like losing, and I know any soccer player would say the same thing. But being successful, and I think that comes with on and off the field. Showing up on time. So for tryouts, it's creating a professional environment, having the players show up, having the training session set up, having the players perform at a high level, making sure they're comfortable, but that they're ready to show up and perform. So I think that that is from the start, like creating that environment. And then I think the goal for year one is to make playoffs. I think that obviously all the teams, that's their end goal is to be successful and make playoffs. But I think that really sets the tone for moving forward. So I think I want to let the girls know that that's our goal and create that environment from the start, creating that environment that's competitive, that everyone shows up on time, that they're willing to work, and we make playoffs and, go from there. I think the end goal for the club would obviously be to win a national championship at the UWS, but obviously you're competing against extremely talented teams and players. But I think that that's obviously everyone's end goal when they're playing in this league.
So kind of a question for both of you as director of operations and the head coach. What are some qualities that you're looking for in the players that are going to represent AC Syracuse Pulse?
We're going to want people that are community based, that have a love of community. But ultimately, the decisions on who will represent us are going to fall to Brooke. This is the team she's going to build. So, Brooke, what are you going to be looking for?
I think obviously the basics, dedication, hard work, coachability. I think when you get into that like adult level or college level, you need players that are like coachable and willing to adapt to different situations. Cause, we might play a different style than their college team, or we might play a different style than their last team. So players that are coachable and willing to adapt. I obviously love players that are technical just because I feel like I can relate to them one on one. And players that have a sense of like team and morale, that are willing to like not only work for their individual selves but work for the success of the team and the overall everyone's overall well-being. And then just that athleticism that can compete at the next level, because I do genuinely believe that this is a little bit of a step up from college. So players that can perform under pressure in at that next level are what I'm looking for.
You've kind of answered it, but we haven't really answered the question. How is the club going to help the cause of advancing women's soccer in Syracuse and the greater New York area?
I think I'll touch on this and then Penny, you can go if that's okay. I think just the environment is like the biggest thing is, having that top level team and promoting it and giving younger players an opportunity to come out and support them. I think that that's one of the biggest things because growing up, there wasn't a women's team in the Syracuse area, but I remember going to like the Salty Dog games and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. Like, I want to play in a stadium like this. Like, I want to play professional when I'm older. But I think just the opportunity it provides for not only the current athletes and like the players on the team, but the younger ones and the ability for them to look up to it and aspire to be something.
And we have already begun advancing women's soccer just by hiring Brooke and bringing a top level player um, to the coaching staff, somebody that local girls, and by local I mean New York State in total, can really aspire to be like, not only on the field but on the sideline and in the community, um, in its entirety.
You did touch on that in the beginning. You said how you're talking about Brooke being the first person you could think of, and that's awesome to hear that that's going to be kind of the traits that are going to take forward with the club. Um, how does soccer in Syracuse differ from other areas of New York, New Jersey, and the Eastern Seaboard?
So I think one way it's a little bit different is there's obviously you can only play outdoor for like so many months. So it's a lot of like indoor training and there's not a ton of like 11v11 fields in Syracuse opposed to like other areas in New York. So we focus a lot on like the technical ability of the player and like there is like futsal started to pick up a little bit, so really focusing on that technical aspect and developing the players like foot skills so they have the confidence when they go on the field. I think that that is one way that Syracuse is much different. And I think I honestly shows because like players from Syracuse that have gone on to play, like goalkeepers specifically that have gone on to play like college soccer, they're some of the most technical players on the field because they've always focused on their footwork and their technical ability. And it's really helped them advance and bring their game to the next level.
During COVID and even during the growth of kind of UWS and the league itself, lots of clubs have started to take on a role of being a part of the community, whether it's using camps or free programs to get more youth involved. Does AC Syracuse Pulse have anything like that brewing, or any idea of if there's going to be camps available to kids to kind of get them motivated to play the game?
As a matter of fact, we've just kicked off our first set of youth clinics. We picked up a small space that we're offering, one night a week clinics with our pro and I semi-pro coaches. And then as we are able to go outdoors, we will then be offering camps, and we're talking about doing a couple of free clinics that our pro players, our pro coaches, our semi-pro coaches and players will be a part of. Um, Additionally, when we play here locally, we're going to be right at one of the colleges. Pricing is Ticket pricing is going to be affordable for families because we definitely want it to be, you know, based where our youth can come in and say, "Hey, I saw Brooke at practice. She was in my clinic this week, and now I get to see her. Look what she's doing on the field. Look how she's coaching these girls. I can't wait to play, for her long term." So we do have things in the works, and our directors of youth education will definitely be getting things put together so that we can start strong once we can go outdoors too.
So at the end of the day, my main thought is community here. And what impact do you think your organization will have on local youth leagues and the community as a whole?
We are hoping to build players not only technically and tactically, but also psychologically, nutrition, community based, where everything from our youth through our semi-pro women and our pro men are going to have community relations that they'll be involved in. We want community to be a major focus point for the organization as an entirety. Without the community, there is no team. So making sure that our team is part of the community in every aspect is something we're truly focusing on as we bring in our players through the 2022, 2023 seasons.
Awesome. And before we go ahead, Brooke. I'm sorry.
I was just also gonna say, and I think that when you have successful, like men's and women's teams in the community, I think it gives like a better sense of like pride and joy. People are like proud of it. They wear jerseys. They're excited. They're excited to be a part of something great, and especially something like starting up, something that's new and fresh and um, productive and a positive environment. So I think that that's a really cool experience for people to be a part of and like look forward to the opportunities like for the upcoming summers.
Well, and then before I let you guys go this evening, first off, thank you for taking the time to join me. I really appreciated the conversation, and I look forward to what you guys bring to the table this summer as we get ready for UWS 2022. But before we leave, my role with the league being the director of community engagement and relations, I have to ask, what does community mean to each of you?
Family. And I think that's what we're trying to build, is that the local area, and by that it's New York State. Luckily, we're central. It's being able to see people that we recognize that are at the games, that people feel comfortable coming up to us and asking a question, or asking about when the next game is, or to just have them feel like they're part of the family, that they're the Pulse family.
I would agree with that. And I would also say support. I would say we need the community support, but the community also needs our support. So getting the girls out in the community, bringing them to certain like events and just showing face. And I think it's really cool, if we could have the girls, like the players on the team, like whether it was like going to like a summer school event, something like that, like getting them involved in the community, just because then you have that sense of support both ways, and it brings like a much tighter bond. And, it does create that family environment where people want to support one another.
Well, Brooke, Penny, thank you so much. But before we say goodbye, how can people make sure they follow with what is up and coming for AC Syracuse Pulse via social media, or even get in contact with you regarding tryouts or an opportunity to take part in those camps that you're going to be offering?
We do have a website, acsyracuse.com. We're also on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Our emails are out there. Presently, we are signing up for Brooke's first round of tryouts that are coming up shortly. And you can reach out to either herself or me. Our email addresses, it's really easy. It's first initial and last name at acsyracuse.com.
Awesome. Well, hey, you guys, thank you so much for taking the time. I know you have some training to get to, and I hope that we meet down the line and have more conversation as it relates to AC Syracuse Pulse. Thank you, you two, for joining me this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you so much for tuning in to this evening's UWS Weekly. You can follow all things UWS and UWS2 on their social media pages and send questions for future shows as well. And don't forget to join our cup of tea Saturday morning. So thank you for watching, everyone, and cheers.
It's time for a dedicated women's league to fill the gap between college and professional soccer. A league that's committed to advancing women's soccer, focusing on the development of the female soccer player during the summer months, elevating the competition to help each player reach that next level, providing high-level soccer for collegiate players, aspiring and former professionals, and international stars, operating with professional standards because players and fans deserve an exceptional experience, uniting players that inspire and are inspired. We are passionately growing the women's game. The future is bright for United Women's Soccer. It's time. Be part of the movement.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us, Penny. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having us. I know Brooke ran off